Yo, what's up? Welcome back. Episode 9, December 17th, 2020. Hope you guys are all having a great holiday season. Hope this podcast finds you well, wherever you're at. But yeah, I'm excited. Episode 9, this is cool. So yeah, this is Trevor Sean Audiocast. Just a place to document my journey and talk about my experiences and building my life, the failures and lessons that come with it, and just progressing through it. So yeah, I'm excited to go through today's episode. So I've been trying to keep these a little shorter because I can ramble. So I think that's a good thing. And I'm going to try to keep this a tight script. Although I did forget one thing. Okay. So, yeah, what we'll be running through today that I've chosen that just kind of came to my head when I start writing is schedule. The importance of a schedule. Finding your pace. Cold challenge. That's cool. You'll like that. Listen to yourself. I've talked about that previously, as a lot of these things just kind of circulate, but honestly, it's just kind of a pulse of what happens for the week, and things change, right? So that's how it goes. And then I have a quote that I found that's very cool, and I think you'll dig it. So anyway, yeah, if you are new here or haven't listened to this very much, I throw this up on YouTube on the channel's called Trevor Sean Audiocast, and then I also have it streaming on most popular podcast platforms: Apple, Spotify, Google, Deezer, some other things. So yeah, check it out. Stitch is cool. Can't forget them. All right, so diving into this first topic, schedule. So I've mentioned this before, and I talked about the importance of, like, in my opinion, I got this idea to build out my perfect day and to schedule it out, and like, what would that look like if I just went from straight up wake up to go to bed? What would I want to do and accomplish in that day that would make me feel, I don't know, accomplished, I guess, just like you had a really good, valuable day and were proud of the work that you did and the things that you achieved. And so I'm kind of bouncing back to this because I've just been noticing over the last week and a half, last couple weeks, about just getting more in tune with that, and I definitely don't think you figure it out in like one day or 1 week even for running your perfect day, because obviously things change and you get into certain things, you map out what you think your day is going to be like, things come up, sometimes you're not able to do certain things, sometimes you are, and maybe it's not what you expected or whatever. There's a lot of different situations that come up. And so being able to adjust for those things and continue to get closer, and obviously things change as you get older and you make certain accomplishments, you make certain breakthroughs, and all of a sudden something that maybe mattered a ton doesn't matter as much to you anymore. And that's cool. But one thing I really wanted to harp on is not just like writing down this wish list for a day, but actually like going through and scheduling it out, and not being like a crazy person and like you have to do everything, but you would like to do it, and using your schedule as a guide rather than, Jordan Peterson talks about not letting your schedule be a tyrant and ordering you around, but reminding you of things that you would like to do. I think that's a cool way to think about it. It shouldn't be this obligation. There are obligations that we have in our day for sure, and you got to plan those out and make it happen and get them done, right? But being able to plan for those things and schedule them out, like and this is part of the experiment, is you have a list of certain things you want to get done, and once you start doing it. And this is the cool thing about just, I mean, last week I talked about experimenting a lot with different things and like how you're doing things and like, is it better to do that task in the morning? Is it better to do it at night? When do you enjoy it the most? When are you able to get to it? Is there a time barrier that doesn't allow you to do it because your kids are like bugging you or, whatever? There's a lot of different things. And so having a schedule to kind of factor in all of those things, what's some predictable times to be able to get certain things done. For me, for example, I found out like working out, if I'm going to work out, I has to be, almost always has to be in the morning. If I don't get it done in the morning, number one, it's like just gnawing at me the entire day. It's just calling at me and saying like, why didn't you work out? And then I feel, because I wanted to get it done in the morning, and I found this out, since I want to do it in the morning, if I don't get it done in the morning, then I feel crappy. And I've gotten better at that because, you can't just sit there and dwell. So if I miss in the mornings now, I'm just like, oh, whatever you missed, like make it up. And I usually do. And then the next day I learn and like get up and make it happen. Um, but anyways, working out in the mornings is definitely better for me. I feel like I get off to a way better start. I'm a lot more alert, and it's like it's a hard thing to do, to work out in the morning before everything else. And getting that out of the way is a big achievement for me that gives me a lot of confidence to be able to tackle other things throughout the day. So that's a cool thing. But that's just something that I've had to like adjust for. And so that's why I wanted to bring this up again, because you got to keep running with stuff, like this podcast. This is like a cool thing that I don't know why I always put it on Thursdays. It probably could be done on a better day, but now it's just kind of like habit, and it's something I look forward to, so I just keep it there. And so this is a cool thing for me to just come down and spend an hour and a half doing, and I think it helps me be better and gets me closer to my goals, which is cool. Speaking of goals, man, I still haven't written mine for December. That's a problem. I got to get those done like this week. So I'll get that done. If you haven't done your goals, I'm on like this monthly kick, so like, get it done. So yeah, that's all I have to say about schedule. So the last thing about that schedule is start to pay attention to, there's a lot of things we want to get done, and they're not always all realistic. But pay attention to the ones that you have to do. The ones that if you don't do, you like, it eats you up, and it just like kills you. And you notice that if you don't do those, you have a bad day and all this stuff, So pay attention to that stuff, like, because if you don't get those done consistently, and those are like your core things, you're just not going to have a good day. But if you can knock those ones out, then it builds momentum for you to be able to do the other things that like aren't completely necessary, but the things that you want to like work into your routine. So that's something I've been noticing. So check that. The next thing I want to talk about is like pace. I feel, oh man, so I've been trying to do this podcast, and then I have Trevor, Sean, my tech channel that I've been trying to build out and create content for. And then I got like a Twitter and an Instagram with that. I don't really have anything for this. This is kind of melds into whatever on my other channels. But it's relevant just because there's a lot of different things that I feel like you can share on those channels that make sense for people, like reading books and, just different resources and things like that. And then I have this coaching channel that I'm trying to set up. So I have a YouTube and an Instagram for that. And it's just like, not to mention there's like a million platforms that you could set up for this, right? You can do TikTok and podcasts and YouTubes and like all that stuff, man. And it can get crazy. It can get a little nuts and a little overwhelming, honestly. And I think that's why I wanted to put this on here, because a lot of resources that I've come across, they talk about just doing one thing and just grinding on it. And I think that could be helpful. And like, if you found that one thing that really just like you want to run with, that's like way cool, and you should do it. I'm trying to just, I've been trying to really look at myself and seeing the like what makes me up. And I guess it's just these three parts. One of them is just like this journey and this struggle and going through this, trying to find that success for me. And so that's one thing that really drives me. And also documenting this for my kids and like my family, and then also for whoever else finds it valuable. I think that's important, and I like the idea of that. And then it'll be kind of cool to see the stories. I guess I got to do a better job of telling stories rather than just like my thoughts on things, you know. Um, I'll make a note. Use examples and stories, because that's what matters. That's the stuff that like really hits, you know. Anyways, back to what I was saying. It's like there's all these. Oh, what makes me up, and so the tech stuff I just love. I just I'm so curious, and I love diving into it, and I love really everything around it from a consumer standpoint, even to building businesses and things like that. Just the empowerment that technology allows us to, that allows for us, I think is really, really remarkable and cool. So I like talking about that kind of stuff. And then the sports thing has just like been a huge passion of mine ever since I was a kid. And now seeing how that is so beneficial to kids, because I have kids and they're doing like different sports programs and dance and football and basketball and all this stuff. It's just such a huge benefit to teach them how to act and behave and get friends and to compete and to lose and to learn and grow and practice and how to get good at something and all those things. And I just think that's such a great way to show kids how to start to live their life and build something really meaningful for themselves. Looking back at my life, there's like this one specific area where I was really doing well on all fronts, and a lot of it stemmed from sports and how I was practicing hard, and I could start to see improvement, and it helped me with my grades and my schoolwork. And there's just like these trends that I come back to, and it's really cool to have that kind of a case study to be like, yeah, I want to get back to that spot. Like if I'm ever going through a tough time, I have something that's like, dude, that is how you live life. What are you doing? And you start to like figure it out and break down the steps to do it. So the reason I talk about pace is I feel like everyone's just like, hey, you can't do that or whatever, and you got to go fast and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, that's cool. And if you are that kind of person, you're wired that way, then that's great. What I'm saying is find out how you operate and what you want to run with, and then just like start wherever you're at and just start building momentum. The one thing that I do believe in is you got to be consistent, dude. If you're going to do something, and like figure out whatever that pulse is and that pace, do it once a month, but like do it, like commit to it and do it enough to where, and who only you know what that is, So if you really want to get good at basketball and you're giving yourself a 1 week time frame, I don't think that's super realistic. But like give yourself a chance to like really grind through it and like set it up and be like, all right, I'm gonna do this for 3 months. Even if it's once a month for 3 months, and see how it runs and see what you like, what you don't like, and like then make adjustments and bounce if you don't like it. And if you like it, maybe up it or whatever. Keep it for a month, who knows? Just start building momentum. That's what this has done for me. I mean, this is episode 9. It's gonna be cool getting to episode 10 next week. That's sick. So I'm excited about that. And same thing with my other stuff. So like this coaching thing, I really love that idea and I want to start doing more of it. But my first thing is like just get consistent with like one thing, because I have ideas for doing a sports blog, and I also have ideas for skills training for kids as well as sports train. I don't like to call it training, but like coach references for volunteer coaches to help them better coach volunteer teams that they're going to be doing for like rec leagues and stuff like that, and also for their kid at home, especially during this crazy pandemic, like different things that you can do to help your kid just grow their skills at home, just doing whatever, so those are like some ideas I have about. The first thing I've been trying to do is this Instagram and YouTube channel where I'm just posting videos about different skills that kids can look up and try. And so that's the first step. And then I'm going to try to build some momentum and get to a blog once a month, once a week, once a month. Or maybe that's realistic. Maybe I'll do it once a month. Who knows? And then the other thing about it is like once you find the pulse of it, and like once you get some validation for things, like for example, like my tech channel, one video just like went off, and it's like went off like 13,000 views I have right now, which is cool to me though. It's like 13,000 people found this one very niche topic that I talked about interesting enough to watch it that many times, and that's like, it's a lot of people, and so that matters to me. And I feel like for a long time I just kind of sat back and I was like, oh, that's cool, maybe it's like a one hit wonder or whatever, but I'm like, dude, that's a very obscure thing for that many people to be able to go find, and there's obviously some type of a vein there that you hit that you should try to like keep going at and see what happens. And so I just released another video last week, which is really cool, and I'm just trying to do once a week on that too. And I'm just trying to like manage these things and juggle these different pieces. And maybe this podcast turns into a once a month thing. I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen? But at least I'm giving myself a chance to like figure it out and taste it. And I mean, I guess that was a cool story. Use examples of my current life. So that's kind of what I've been doing. And hopefully that adds some value and helps you wherever you're at in your life. But the one cool thing about that is all that leads to doing something. And even doing something and failing at it and like bombing out on it, at least you did it and you figured it out. And I mean, that's just like literally the story of life, is like trying something, grinding at it, see if you like it. You don't like it, it fizzled out, or maybe you restarted it like 3 times. I mean, this podcast I literally started last year, and this is the 9th episode I've done. I mean, I should be, based off the weekly thing, this should be like number 53 or something, you know? So it's kind of crazy, but I got it restarted, and it's something I really like to do. And I got into a mental space where I got back to this consistency type mode, and it's been really healthy and good for me. So, yeah, the last note that I had on this was, once you find that pulse and that thing, like, well, I guess I talk about this in the next thing, but like go for it, you know, like don't shy away from it, but make adjustments to be able to handle the demand, you know. So that's gonna be cool. All right, so my boy Jordan Peterson, I talked about him like a ton lately. He just barely interviewed Wim Hof, the Iceman. So if you haven't heard of him, go check him out. He's really interesting, but he does like polar plunges and talks about the huge benefits of the cold. And he, in this interview, there's a clip, and I'll link it in the YouTube details, and also in the podcast details if you want to check it out, and I'll try to throw it up on my social if you want to check that out too. But he talks about the health benefits of doing like some type of a cold exercise every day. And so recently, the last 2 weeks, I've actually started to take the plunge, no pun intended. And so I end all of my showers with cold water, and it's intense, and it's definitely not super fun. But once I heard about it, and he talked about like the benefits of a lot of diseases that people have are cardiovascular related, and how the cold really triggers a lot of responses in your skin to be able to increase blood flow and that kind of stuff. And it helps in all those areas, and especially in your brain and your skin, obviously, to all your different organs, to increase that blood flow and kind of get things pumping for you. And I'll be honest, it's a little bit difficult. He said start with 30 seconds and then start counting up to like 35, 40, 45 or whatever, and just kind of work your way up through so I'm up to like 50 seconds right now at the end. And then at the end of it, you should be able to bounce in and just do like 2.5 minutes and just take a complete cold shower and just like do the whole thing. And the health benefits are obviously really big. And then there's the other side of it, which is a mental benefit. And I've talked about this before, but the ability to do difficult things and really grind through those, I think that's like a huge advantage. And it just like gives you a great confidence of, yeah, this is going to suck, but it's good for me and I can do it. And it's a really cool thing to achieve. And so that's been a cool thing to add to my day, that I kind of just, honestly, just like a little challenge for yourself, you know? It's like, how long can you hold a plank for, or whatever, you know? It's like a little challenge to kind of get you up and like get you motivated and jacked up to that you can do things that are difficult. I think this is a cool exercise, and plus it has some other benefits to it. So if you're interested in the challenge, I would do that. So that's what I'm doing right now. And who knows how long I'm going to do it. I'm going to try to do it all the way through the end of December. I should write that down on my goals that I'm going to get done this week. But yeah, check it out. All right. Last couple things I want to talk about was listen to yourself. And so listen, you're talking to like the king of like a dude that can ramble and like get excited about something, like an idea. Oh man, I love talking about ideas. I love like coming up with something and be like, oh, this would be so sick, and like running the numbers on it, and like how much money could this make, and how cool would this be, and look at all the different places we could go, and blah 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 blah. And I think it's cool to talk about that stuff and to get jacked up for your ideas. That's awesome. But words get draining. And I have noticed in my life that it's good to talk about stuff, man, and you should. But you need to put action to the words, because that's where it gets like way exciting. I mean, coming from a guy who like has just, I get really romantic about ideas for real. Like I talk to my wife and like, God bless her, dude. Like Joyce, thanks for being patient with me, because I talk her ear off about literally the same thing all the time. And she's really cool and patient with me, but she's just told me like, cool, go do it. Like, go do it. And that's been a good thing for me. She's like so great for me, and I'm really grateful for her. But it is true. And I think the thing that it came up today is there's going to be times where there's going to be good times where you're talking about stuff and it's going to work and it's going to be fun to talk about, and it's going to be like, yeah, that sounds great, let's do it. And there's going to be tough times in your life where maybe you're not making as much money. Maybe the opportunities are a little scarce. Maybe things are hard. Maybe you're going through a tough time with your kids. Maybe you're going through a tough time with your job. Maybe you're going through a tough time in a midlife crisis, whatever. I don't know. All I'm saying is there are going to be some tough times. And like right now, I mean, we're in this pandemic. I'm in the entertainment industry. Ticket sales just aren't happening because all these events are canceled. So we've been getting pretty lean financially for us. And so again, the reason I bring this up is be careful to, like I said, I think it's good to talk about stuff, and I think it's good to like get yourself jacked up, but action needs to come more than anything. And also, it's important to take in information. I think it's always important to listen. You can always learn something. If you feel like you got it figured out, I don't feel like that's a great recipe for long-term success. You might have something figured out short-term, and that's great. I just don't feel like that's always going to be like that forever. And so I do think it's important to listen, to take in different perspectives. My wife does a great job of that for me, and so that's always good. But always remember that you know yourself, and you gotta run with how you know what you are. Now, all these different opinions, especially, and I'm not talking about everybody, but the people's opinions that you really care about and matter, you gotta take that information in, because that's what makes up you. That's what makes up your life and your environment, right? That's your circle. If you don't like the words that you're hearing from your circle and your people and your friends and whatever, then you need to get some new ones and take in the information that makes sense to you, that comes from a different perspective, that gives you different ideas and another path that's like, oh yeah, I never thought about it that way, or whatever. Those kind of conversations are so important to have. But then at the end of the day, you still got to lean towards yourself. Take in that information, adjust it with whatever your plans are and what you're doing, but make sure that you remain into yourself. You got to be able to run with your stuff. And that's why I talk about that. That's why I want to talk about this, is because talking about your stuff all the time, and just like, and that's another thing, is like, if you don't do any action with stuff and start to prove what you're talking about, sometimes people around you are going to start giving you their opinions. Like, oh yeah, you should do this, or you should do that, and you should do this. And it's all of a sudden that idea doesn't get as fun anymore. And you're like, dude, I had this idea. It's not like running like I wanted to. And it's not anyone else's fault but yourself, because I'm a huge believer in taking responsibility and accountability for like yourself. If you let other people's opinions and things like that overrun what you want to do, then that's just because you're not doing your stuff. And that's a you problem. That's not anybody else. So I just had that thought today. I just wanted to like put that out there. You really got to understand who you are. And if you have an idea for stuff and if you want to go do it, then go do it. And take in information, talk to people about it and whatever. But like at the end of the day, man, it's like, it's your life. It's like, what do you want? It's like, you got to go and grab the dream that you want. And you have this vision in your head of like what you could be. And dude, life and the market and what people want and what they are demanding, that's all going to happen. And that's going to knock you around in a lot of different places and sharpen you up and like form you into like this person that's like, you're not just talking about stuff from opinions, you're actually doing things and getting real life feedback. And that's going to start to drive you into these different places that you don't even know about yet because you haven't done anything. So for whatever it's worth, I just wanted to bring that up. And I thought that was that was a big thing for me this week, where I just kind of noticed myself talking about a lot of things. And all of a sudden I would talk to some different people and there would just be like some stuff coming back. Sometimes out of frustrations because I talk about the same stuff all the time. Sometimes out of their own excitement for like taking my idea and like, pushing it in a different direction or whatever. And that's fine. Like all that stuff's fine, but go do something with your own idea and make it happen. And like action matters. Like go do it. I think I ranted about that for like 5 minutes. I'm sorry. Okay. So I came across this one quote from Tom Bialu. He referenced it, and I took it, man, and I loved it. It's from, I wrote it down. Hold on. It's from Friedrich Nietzsche. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He was a 19th century philosopher. And so he wrote this. It's called The Will to Power, which I really like this quote because right now it's been difficult for me. I mean, we're kind of, like I mentioned already, it's like this pandemic. It's kind of like some lean times right now. And the future's tough. Like who knows what's going to happen. And so I'm in this space right now trying to make moves into different things to see how things are going to pan out. And I also want to do really well at my job. And so it's just hard right now. Like there's some days that are just like really difficult. And this was a cool quote to kind of bring some things that I hadn't thought about that I think is really powerful. Okay. So The Will to Power from Friedrich Nietzsche. To those human beings who are of any concern to me, I wish suffering, desolation, sickness, ill treatment, indignities. I wish that they should not remain unfamiliar with profound self-contempt, the torture of self-mistrust, the wretchedness of the vanquished. I have no pity for them because I wish them the only thing that can prove today whether one is worth anything or not, that one endures. Hell yeah, dude. I like that. I mean, we're strong people, man. Everyone has this will inside them that's like strong and that flame can burn really bright. But just like I talked about last week, you got to believe in yourself. If you're not going to believe in yourself, then who's going to? And then you got to go make it happen and figure it out, dude. And I'm a big believer in that. And like, that's one of the reasons I want to do this. I just feel like it's really, motivation is such a tough word because what does that mean? I think I don't know what motivation really means. I mean, someone talked about like how motivation motivation is hard because you don't want to do hard things all the time that are good for you, So motivation's like difficult in that way. But I also feel like you can be inspired, and everyone has a lot to give inside of them. Everyone has like this huge value to give, and you don't have to have 20. I think that's the other thing. especially in today's world, in this social media environment. Everyone's looking for like 20 million followers. I don't think that's like a realistic thing. There's like some people that make that happen, and that's cool, man. I'm not like discounting it all. But everyone has a tribe out there, no matter what it is. And you just gotta like, if you're not putting yourself out there to be vulnerable and to give value in any way, then you're not gonna find them. So you gotta give yourself, and you gotta put yourself out there and make it happen. Hence this podcast. So hope you guys enjoyed the content today. Thanks for listening. I will see you guys next week, episode 10. It's gonna be on Christmas Eve. I'll have to maybe, it's my daughter's birthday. I might have to record on Wednesday. So anyways, hope you guys are having a great holiday season. Hope you guys enjoyed the podcast today. Hope this brought some type of value. I'm trying to keep it shorter, 30 minutes. That feels good. It's not 45, 50. That's good. So anyways, for what it's worth, really appreciate you guys listening. To my kids, love you guys. To my wife, couldn't do this without you. Love you, and hope you guys have a great weekend, great holiday